are listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello and Happy New Year. My name is Dan Bobian and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This podcast has been a passion project of mine since 2016. This is the kickoff episode of 2024, and I asked my good friend, Paige Didora, to sit down with me and review and reflect on the year of 2023. We also look forward to what 2024 might have in store for craft beer. Paige is a woman of many talents. She has a blog of her own called Alcohol by Volume, and she's written quite a few things for Good Beer Hunting. She's one of the people behind Houndstooth Modern Tavern, and she's an absolute gem of a human. She's smart, funny, and knows how to bring balance to the force if the force is living with a dog and a cat. So, let's head out to the Didora residence to talk beer. Cheers. Welcome to another episode of A One Pint Stand. This is the first episode of 2024, and I don't know. Last year when we did this, we were at Town Hall. I'm being joined by one of my favorite people to talk beer with, the one and only Paige from Alcohol by Volume.
Yes.
And we're recording at the dining room table along with her canine companion.
Yes, our brand new dog, Pepin.
Pepin.
Yep. Like
Pepin,
the lake.
like the lake, not the Papan, like the
That's right.
the French
the same,
chef.
Not as
Yes,
busy.
yes, right. Pepin is right now.
About to nod off.
Yes, right. If
He's
you
already
thought you were
bored.
tired before, dog, get ready because we're gonna lull you into a trance with captivating beer chat. This is fun. I always love to do a look back and a look forward. Not just when I'm on my bike, but when I'm thinking about the world around me and the beer world. And for as long as I've been involved with the beer scene, you've kind of been somebody who is always plugged in and always like kind of knows what's going on, and you always have really interesting thoughts and opinions about beer. So I figured, who better to have a beer conversation with
Thoughts and opinions.
than you?
It's like thoughts and prayers, but
thoughts
not
and
quite.
prayers. Yes, right. Thoughts and opinions. So I wanted to kind of start off with thinking about what in your mind kind of pings on the radar of the biggest beer / beverage stories of 2023 in the last year.
I think just the expansion of the kinds of products that breweries can make, are interested in making, and market well. I mean, namely THC beverages, although I think non-alcoholics and seltzers are still worth discussing. But one of the biggest stories of the year is that the Minnesota legislature didn't read their proof their memos very closely, and then we ended up with legalizing THC beverages, which I think as Minnesotans we don't quite realize how unique it is, because whenever I participate in discussions with other national, beer writers or people from different states, they always kind of raise their eyebrows when I mention that you can brew beer with like full on marijuana now. And I don't know the ins and outs, but people are always really surprised that Minnesota breweries are not only allowed to do it, but to export it to other states. So many Minnesotans might not realize that there's breweries around the country who are ordering THC beverages from Minnesota companies.
That's so fascinating to me that we would be on the cutting edge of that.
Right.
When you think about the sensibilities of people in the state. And I think, from a progressive standpoint, I think we're definitely on the forefront with that. But there's also like that weird kind of Nordic, Germanic, Scandinavian sensibility where it's like that just seems so out of character that we would be like leading the path.
Especially given our beer laws for so long. It's kind of like it took a while to find the gas pedal, and now it's like we're trying to like rein it in. Like they're trying to develop laws and rules. Now I just saw a story today on NPR that they've developed a roadside test for drivers to tell if you're driving while using THC. But so beware and don't do that. But I was talking to someone in Chicago, when I was listening to another podcast, and she was very surprised that that Minnesota breweries can brew with THC, which I think is funny, being only 2 states away.
Yeah, that's crazy. In Chicago, they're kind of usually on the forefront of most big trends.
Yeah, like their tap rooms have been able to sell, to-go beer in any format for a long time, and we just got that. Was that this year? Or was that last year?
That was last year. To-go
tap rooms were able to sell different sizes other than just 750 and a growler.
Yeah, that's been happening for at least a year and a half.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Yeah.
But the THC is all brand new, and now it's more regulated.
Yeah, it's
which
starting
I think
to be
is good because as somebody who is not really familiar or that well versed in those type of activities, I think it's nice to have it's a 5 milligram serving.
Right.
I know that.
But you can package numerous servings in one can as long as you tell people how many servings there are. So the concentration can change a lot.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's been breweries that have made those tiny little cans that have multiple servings versus some breweries are doing 16 ounce tall can that's 1 serving or even less. I appreciate that Modest has at least 2 different doses, so to speak. They have one that's even less concentrated, probably in the hopes that people want to drink more than one. Most people probably do. But I think the regulation isn't really just coming from the government. I think the ways that breweries have had to kind of restrict themselves or guide themselves is more based on who insures them, because that's been a struggle as we try to catch up with the new laws. But I think a lot's going to continue to change with the regulation. But it's crazy to think that, I've been working here and there at the Briar, and we have THC beverages in addition to beer, and you can let someone walk out the door with a THC beverage. That's not considered an open container and stuff like that you kind of have to think twice. You get a little bit of whiplash, we're regulating alcohol so heavily, and then everyone's just kind of looking at each other about what to do about THC. But not that I want businesses to be able to make choices for themselves, but it is just so interesting to me that the world of THC is kind of the Wild West.
Yeah, that is interesting. You mentioned the Briar.
Yeah.
I went to the Briar for the first time. When was it? In early November.
Yeah, early November.
When my visit coincided with the new kind of residency that the Houndstooth Tavern is doing.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? That's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, so the Briar has been around as a cafe for a little over a year, and it's owned by Abe, formerly of Chowgirls, and Hillary, formerly of Dangerous Man, amongst many other projects of theirs. But they opened the Briar in the hopes that it would always be a bar, but they had a struggle, that's an understatement, getting a liquor license. And so they started as a cafe, which is also important to them to have, breakfast and coffee to serve their neighbors. But then they finally got a liquor license over the summer. And Rick and I, our project was called Houndstooth, if you don't know us. And we were doing a dinner residency there starting in very early November and wrapped up just before Christmas. So that means that Abe and Hillary and their crew were still cooking all the breakfasts and lunches and running the cocktail program and the coffee program. And then we were coming in every evening, most evenings anyway, Wednesday through Sunday, to do dinners. And we're hoping to do some more events there starting probably late January into February. Kind of similar, I think, where we'll have regular dinners throughout the week, probably some more events, kind of more one-off kinds of events. And I know Rick, my partner, is looking forward to introducing some more of his kind of family recipes, Ukrainian background types of recipes, and kind of leaning into that in the colder months, which I think makes sense. So if you haven't been to the Briar, you don't have to wait for us to be back. You can go enjoy Abe's wonderful cocktails. One other perk is that they have a lot of they only have a few tap lines, but they have Modest and they have Dangerous Man, which it's kind of like the little place you can go in Northeast if you still want to enjoy Dangerous Man, which I think we'll probably get into.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's at 13th and Washington. So
right on the corner.
Yep.
Cute little place.
Yeah.
I thought that the drinkware was really
the
cool.
little vintage. They use a lot of vintage glassware, vintage plates. It just feels a little more collected.
It was a really cool experience. And so
I'm glad you
I
said
can't
that,
wait
yeah.
to go back. So
It's very small. It's really, everybody kind of knows each other. It's a lot of regulars, which is cute. A lot of industry folks have stopped by. So, yeah.
yeah, well, I just thought it was fun to see Dangerous Man,
I know.
Modest on tap.
Yeah.
Two of my go-tos. The THC thing, let's circle back to that. I think one thing that maybe, I don't know if it's kismet or right place at the right time, but it certainly sounds like it has become quite the financial boon to breweries at a time when breweries need a little bit of a financial B12 shot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think THC, just the same as seltzer, is a little bit less expensive to produce than beer, I believe. Just the raw ingredients. I think there's different ways to do it, different ways that people are using the THC itself, but it's a little less time, a little less raw ingredient input. I think it has been a pretty, not only that, but a way to expand to a different market. You know, as some people may want to cut back on alcohol, either now or at certain times of the year, or just want to have more variety. THC is a good way to have a totally different product. But there are some places that won't let you drink both in the same sitting or in the same night. So different breweries are managing that different ways. Some people are just kind of using the honor system. Other people are like stamping hands. But that's kind of a little bit of a uncharted territory in terms of, should people really be mixing beer and THC, and who's in charge of that? Yeah,
I know that right off the top of my head, I know that 56 and Arbeiter make you choose, which direction you're going to go with your evening, and then that's all you can. Yeah, you have to stay on that path. Yeah, which I think is probably good. I don't know. I don't know how well those two animals play together at the.
And I feel like, I mean, I'm not a big user of the jazz cabbage in any form, but I think most people who partake in marijuana of any form typically don't mix it with alcohol. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard is people it's not a huge restriction to have to choose one or the other. Most people kind of know what path they want to take.
Yeah. I guess there's only been one time in my life where somebody was adamant that when they drink, as long as they finish the night with a little bit of jazz cabbage, they don't get sick. And that person's theory was disproved at about 3:45 a.m. in my 8-person tent along the Root River at my brother-in-law's bachelor party. And so that was a very interesting time.
You didn't get him out to the river to do his business in time, huh?
No, he was having trouble with the zipper on the tent. And,
we've all been there.
And I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. And then it was bad news.
And I think people think that there are federal regulations or even state laws about mixing alcohol and THC like in a beverage. And I don't think that that's actually against the law. I think it's a lot of people who are hearing from their insurance companies or from other other interested parties that they shouldn't be doing that. But I think that regulation is kind of a myth.
I just saw something today. As a matter of fact, I went to Makwa Coffee in Roseville with my good buddy Charles.
I haven't been, but I've heard it's really good.
It is really good. It's very cute. I ran into somebody I went to elementary school with.
Oh, that is cute.
And I was like, this is going to sound weird, but is your name Tabitha?
You've been doing a lot of that
and
lately.
She's like, well, it's kind of how I live my life. I should just have a T-shirt that says, this is going to sound weird, but ... And then I engaged them in conversation.
It would save you some time.
Yeah, awkward introductory statement. But we were sitting there, and he saw something come across his social media feed that said Fair State is no longer allowed to serve their chill state
in the
tap room because the building manager doesn't want that.
The building, see there again. It's another. What's the word? I don't know what the word is. It's another party of interest or some sort of pressure that's really not the law.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard that. One of my good friends is one of their reps specifically for Chill State. I'll have to ask him about that. Was that really recent?
I think, he saw it today. So that must have been
that's so strange. Like a building owner, that's very strange.
Well, it seems like to
They've
me,
been plugging along as a successful business for so long.
there's more consistency with regulation of super glue than there is with THC. And that just seems really weird given how big of a thing it is as far as like mood, the ability to alter your mood.
And and
impact,
impact, just for example, your driving. One thing I did want to mention actually about THC is I saw in the last couple of maybe weeks or maybe a month, I've seen that Fulton has been putting a lot of marketing towards like kind of this idea of a guaranteed dose. So I'm, again, not an expert in the devil's lettuce, but I have heard that they have a way of determining exactly the dose that ends up in the finished product, and they're guaranteeing that that dose is going to stay on the shelf. And my understanding, I bet someone's screaming at their computer right now, but the idea is that I think BPA or some of the chemicals that are in the can can absorb THC. And so kind of the potency over time can change. And I've seen Fulton come out as being very vocal as like, this is a guarantee that, this is going to stay, this dose is going to stay this dose. Sorry, that was not very articulate, but I did think it was interesting and I want to learn a little bit more about it.
That's interesting. I wonder how they... How do they... Well, I suppose you just test it by like different dates of cans and see.
Yes. And I don't know if they're using like a different material that they think is not going to impact it as much.
How fast do you blow through the bag of Funyuns with the...
That's right.
1 week old can,
right.
6 week old can, and just like it's very controlled.
That's right.
Interesting.
You get the munchies on and off, you got to keep trying your beverages.
I think, so THC is a very interesting thing that has really kind of blown up here. And I know that I think Bob Galligan has mentioned several times that a lot of states are looking to us for how to implement their programs and things like that, which I think is really cool. Also, kind of another kind of big thing that seems like it's really, I mean, it's been building for many years, but people reassessing their relationships with alcohol.
Constant.
Right on cue, cracking a beer.
Yeah, not me. No, I'm just kidding. Right. No, I do think about my relationship.
What are you drinking there?
I just cracked an Earth Rider beer. It's their 1332 Vienna Lager. Oh. My friend Brian picked this up for me when he was up north for the holidays.
Oh, cool.
And I do love a Vienna Lager. I'm sure anyone who's ever heard of me knows my favorite is Firebrick, but I do like this one too.
Yeah.
And I heard you just helped brew one.
Yes, just at Modest. Speaking of Modest, I'm drinking a Pretty Metal.
Oh, I love that beer. Oh my gosh.
A dark Czech lager, and I brought it in cans, and you happen to have this branded Modest glass.
Do you want to hear a funny story about that glass?
Absolutely.
When I worked at Modest, like shortly after they opened, I was there bartending and doing like some beer education. It's called Beer Smarts. It was very fun. This person came to the bar, and like no shade, but this is pretty funny. They came up to the bar and they saw us putting those glasses into the dishwasher. And since this is a podcast and not a video, I'll just tell you that the glass that we're talking about is like the glass that's shaped like a can. Yeah. So it's, in this case, it's a 16 ounce or maybe slightly more, but it looks like a can. So the top of it has like a little lip, the way the aluminum of a can goes towards the seam. And these people were, this person was looking at it. And he looked at it and he said to us, and I don't think he was drunk, he said, "I wonder how they get the can out of there." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he goes, after they make the glass, I wonder how they get the can out of there. You're like it was like a mold, like a cookie cutter.
Move along, Shecky Green. I've heard that
and
one
I
before.
tried not to laugh, but I think he was completely serious. But we laughed about that for a while. I bet there's other folks that work there that remember that.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, that's not how glasses are made.
One of the things that I've enjoyed over the last couple of weeks on social media is they've been doing this thing with people who work at Modest to draw their logo from memory.
I watch every single one of them.
Oh, my Lord.
It's pretty funny.
One of the people that I had on the podcast in the past year, Bree Smith.
Yes, Bree. Yeah.
Who has a background in graphic design.
Did she do the best job?
Quite talented art. No, she was like...
Did you see Kale?
There was...
I don't even think it was an M.
Chops. had a very tough time with it, but I mean that's fun. They're leaning into it.
You know, actually I think that's a trend worth talking about is really creative beer marketing. I mean, when you see it, you really know you see it, and it's really fun to see like people getting creative with the way that they do their marketing. Modest is a great example. I think you know, there's kind of those well-known like beer TikTokers that are just so fun. They take beer marketing outside of the box. So I did appreciate those videos. They were very fun.
Yeah, they're good. I think anytime a brewery, you know, lets you in behind the curtain
For sure.
to kind of like show off some of the personalities or just like some of the people there.
Yeah.
I think, why don't people do more of that? It's such a fun way to engage.
People feel like they have to be all buttoned up and perfect, but I look at some of the videos like Little Thistle does, some of the silly antics that they get up to. That's always funny too.
Yeah, they have the interview series that they used to do.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I think they call it Between Two Fermenters. That was a nice one. Yeah, I love it when people do that. I think Lupulin they'll every now and again do a pretty hilarious video of the mad scientist Mike and making their creations and different things like that.
Ben Paddle's pretty fun too. Maybe not quite as silly per se, but still really creative.
Yeah, I like that. The idea, and it kind of flows into it, but you know, having THC beverages available in tap rooms, I would imagine makes it a lot easier for people to still feel like they're part of the beer community when they're going out to different tap rooms.
Definitely.
It feels like to me quite a few breweries have those options.
Yes.
If they're not making them themselves, they have them available.
It's growing, and some breweries are even offering like gummies or like products that other people make, because that's allowed. It's not like beer where you have to make every alcoholic product that you sell. Yeah. Unless you're a brew pub. It's really growing, and it's making it a little bit more accessible for sure.
I think it makes it easier for people who maybe are wondering about it to still feel good. And I don't know, like, I think that's really good to be more. I mean, a lot of craft breweries want to be inclusive, and this is just another good way to do that. But also with the kind of upswell in quality NA beer options, there's so many different things out there.
Definitely.
Than even a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I remember last year around this time, I did a story on Dry January, and I went to Dabbler Depot.
Yeah.
I was blown away by the number of options that they had. Not only just NA beers, NA wine, NA cocktails.
Yeah.
The other night when I was out celebrating Anthony Jennings' birthday at the
Happy
Red
birthday.
Rabbit. Happy birthday. One of the people there ordered an NA Old Fashioned.
Wow.
And I had a sip of it. I'm like,
at the Red Rabbit?
Yeah. And so it was, I mean, just, you know, non-alcoholic bitters, looked like an Old Fashioned. I even had a sip of it. It tasted good without, really? I mean, the only difference obviously was like the body and the minus the visible note of alcohol, but I'm like, if you're going after that taste, not bad.
There's a really cool, and I think they opened earlier than this year, but there's a very cool non-alcoholic bottle shop, if you will, called Marigold over on Nicollet, here in South Minneapolis, and they have a second location as well, I think in St. Paul, and their whole store is non-alcoholic, but it's a whole mix. So, like you said, it's beer, it's wine, but it's also like adaptogenics and like mushroom-based beverages, THC beverages, and other like, I don't know if they carry non-alcoholic spirits per se. They probably do. And just like teas and other kind of more sophisticated beverages that aren't necessarily like alcohol removed. Most of them never had alcohol to begin with, but it just kind of takes the sophistication level up a notch where you feel like you could bring a bottle of something to a party or gift a bottle of something that's, you know, not alcoholic. And I know we use them for some pretty complex wines. My husband and I, we did a beer dinner at our church, and we wanted to do some pairings that were non-alcoholic, and we did some wines from them, and it was really nice to be able to sample them. And I think you wouldn't drink it and think, okay, this is non-alcoholic wine, but it's just a beverage unto itself.
Yeah, I just think it's fascinating. The overall quality and now variety of options. kind of just like there is with craft beer. You know, there's so many different things to choose from, and there should be, and theoretically, if a liquor store or a bar is having the right stuff on tap, there should be something for everybody.
Yeah.
And I like how that extends to people who are maybe taking a break or have moved away from alcohol so they can still be part of that social scene. I think that's a good. 2023 felt very much to me like a year of, you know, trying to bring more people into the fold.
Yes.
As from an acceptance standpoint, which I really like.
Yeah. I think a lot of credit for the quality increase in the non-alcoholic beer scene probably goes to ABV technology. I mean, they're one of the major companies nationwide, really, that's removing alcohol from an existing beer. So their technology, you know, spits out a beer that's de-alcoholized and then also kind of a seltzer-like product. But most breweries are a lot of Minnesota breweries are using ABV technology in order to create a beer that's alcohol removed instead of brewing something that never had alcohol to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of why we're getting a product that's much more akin to beer. And it tastes, it's much more satisfying. The body is better. The flavor is better. So hats off to Ben and his team. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, one thing I wanted to kind of talk about, and I guess this has been more of a story in previous years in different areas of the country, but this idea that we are getting close to a saturation point when it comes to craft beer, and maybe kind of like, is that a real thing? Is it, you know, in Minnesota, we had, I would say, an uptick in brewery closings, maybe more so than previous years. And I just wonder how serious is it? Like if 2023 was a canary in the coal mine, should we be worried? I mean, we also had a certain number of breweries that opened.
Or expanded.
And so I guess one of the things I wonder about is how do we quantify that? Like what does it mean? And I think everybody has different opinions on it. People within the industry, they know way more of the financial aspect of running a brewery than I do.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is for certain is that COVID was a big factor in, just like the financial difficulties and how people came back from it. I don't think obviously the government, shutting things down was really hard and probably disproportionately affected tap room only, obviously, since you can't sell beer out your front door back then. What do you think when you hear somebody say, craft beer is dying? Do you believe it?
I mean, I think it's not so much a bubble bursting as it is just increased competition in the marketplace is one factor. I don't really know if that equates to a bubble bursting. I'm no economist, but I really felt like I kind of had a feeling that coming, quote unquote, out of COVID would have been harder than going in, because I think people's attitudes about how they spend their time and their money has really changed. I think you have to capture your audience more so than just existing. Used to be kind of enough to get people through the door. And part of that is because there are more choices, choices, not just for tap rooms, but more choices for beverages like we've been talking about. And it seems like breweries that have more choices are probably faring better. But there's also some factors that I don't think are really necessarily related to the number of breweries so much as kind of the state of things. I think there's a bunch of breweries that opened in the 80s and 90s nationwide that are seeing those owners want to retire. We saw that with Bell's. We've seen that with other breweries on the coast where they don't really have someone to succeed them, so to speak. And so they decide to sell. Maybe not so much here in Minnesota, but I think that's something to consider in addition to increased costs, which you kind of touched on, but increased cost of raw ingredients, but increased costs of aluminum and increased cost of fuel and just what it takes to get a beer in your customer's hand, labor, everything has just become more costly at probably a faster pace than it has ever since, let's say, the Surly Bell was introduced.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that have all kind of come to a head at the same time.
Exactly.
But when I think of like a bubble bursting, I think of like all of a sudden it's like pandemonium.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
We've had more than a couple of breweries that have closed down in the last year, but there isn't one thing. It's not one particular thing that's happening to every place.
Right. If you look at the closures, I think, I mean, I'm not an insider on any of them, but perhaps one, I think that there's not the same reason across the board, which is a little bit reassuring. I think Dangerous Man, I think, was a conscious choice to completely change their business model and get their lives back again and not have to run this big machine that is a tap room in Northeast Minneapolis. But the brand's not gone. They have already kind of buoyed their other plan for distribution before they close the tap room. I think that's really smart. But.
Yeah. Well, like you said, people who started a brewery 30 some years ago are retiring. Mark Stuttrud of Summit Brewing is stepping down in March of 2024.
Right.
He's retiring, not stepping down. Those are two different things.
Sure.
Retiring is like,
he's riding off into the sunset
he's going to do whatever he wants to do with his time. And, I mean, that's the one thing. If there's nobody to take over, and this probably happens with a lot of family businesses.
I'm sure. I'm sure we're talking about beer because we know beer.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the same could be said for a lot of other industries.
Jim Bob Cooter's
Toys.
Furniture Upholstery Service is down the road.
But I think it's also because what other industry, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but what other industry has cropped up so quickly with almost exclusively small businesses and has served a product that really has to be either sold across a bar or sold in a 3-tier system?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just unique. Beer is unique in that way that I can't think of another industry that's
saltwater taffy in the early 80s, but then that became
rollerblades.
That became exactly. Yeah,
but
no,
man,
you're
did
right.
the patents go quickly on that
right.
one.
You're right. I mean, and that is a thing. It's so uber specific, and it's
hard
not
to
like,
compare to who could have modeled it.
Yeah, nobody really. And so I mean, maybe that's part of it. Is like it's harder to find a successor where like really anybody with a business degree could take over a company and probably make a go of it.
Yeah.
One of the breweries that closed, Lakes and Legends.
Yeah.
They, I think, had been around for 8 years. Had a really nice spot.
Really ideal location. Really ideal location.
Spacious.
Yeah.
Tons of people.
Built-in
they're
people,
at the
really.
ground level of a huge condo.
Surrounded by other condos and apartments.
A lot of money over there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a lot of affluent people in that area.
Right.
And...
But then also that comes with challenges. No parking, really. No ability to really have a true patio. I mean, I'm not trying to say that they had a ton of limitations, but I think there's some drawbacks too to being in that location.
Yeah, and I guess from talking to a couple people that were very kind of close to a couple staff members there, their ownership,
was from out of state.
Yeah, well, they started here and then they kind of moved out to California and were still kind of running it. It's my understanding that the owner who moved out to California and I think the owner's wife, they were kind of the primary financial members of the ownership team, and then there was an owner who was still here, but more of a kind of like boots on the ground type of thing.
Sure.
I don't know if you can really run a brewery if you're not there all the time. There are a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of like things that change, and to understand kind of like the vibe, who's coming in, what they want. Yeah. You can't do that remotely.
Do you think that the customer cares? Do you think that the customer knows?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think
the customer knows if the opposite is true. Like if they're talking to the owner and they probably, feel really connected to that business.
Yeah. And I think at Lakes it was more like, a lot of their staff was there. Like I always saw Kyle there hanging around.
Yeah.
And so like there were always people to talk to, but like not people writing the checks. And maybe, on paper, if like your staff is telling you, hey, we need this thing and it's going to cost this much, but this is why it will work. And you just see it as a line item on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
There's no like understanding of how will this benefit if you're not there all the time. And so I wonder how much that played into a role of maybe a little bit of a disconnect between like what was actually happening from like a business standpoint, and then like just looking at it, as from a budgetary standpoint. I also think probably the rent there was probably astronomical.
I'm sure it was.
Probably $15,000-$20,000 a month.
Right. I mean, I think that's something to think about is breweries that don't own their buildings or their spaces. That's a huge risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, I mean, this is no secret that for early on, up until probably about 3 years ago, the beer was inconsistent.
Yeah, and I think they really lacked an identity. And I think those two
they
things
wanted to be like the Belgian
They opened
brewery.
as kind of a Belgian brewery, which, say what you will about, how difficult that is to do, but then to try to kind of pull away from that, I think is even more confusing, and then just kind of make, a whole mix of styles and blends. And I definitely, it's not a beer that I sought out in the liquor store at all.
Yeah. And I think once the narrative gets out that you're not making good beer,
that's really hard to fix.
It's really hard to fix. I remember, this was a number of years ago when 612 was having all sorts of issues, and Kelsey was one of their sales reps, and she'd be on Beer People, like taking people, mentioning, one-on-one, he's like, hey, our beer has changed. Come on into the tap room. Let me buy you a beer. When there was a period of time where it got better,
but it never really sustained.
Once it's out there, it's really hard to get people to come back, especially after a couple of years. They opened in 2015, so maybe 2017 the beer's kind of really gone downhill. Well, now think about. This was something I was talking about. To get there, unless I had a specific thing to do at Lakes and Legends from my house in St. Paul, I'm driving by 7-8 breweries at least that, from a quality standpoint, a couple of years ago, were all better than that. So
that's why I think it really is a competitive market, and I think that's, now that I think about it more, is different from a bubble bursting. Our good friend Aloe, who runs the craft beer concierge out in the Boston area, he was
certified Cicerone.
Big deal. He was on Greg Washington's podcast, or I don't know. We call it a podcast. It's like a Facebook Live.
Yeah.
His his beer program.
Yep.
And
Brothers in Booze.
Exactly, Brothers in Booze. And Aloe was sharing how it's not just enough. I think this is what he said. Maybe I'm paraphrasing too much, but it's not just enough to have good beer or a good tap room. You really have to have both. And I completely agree. And I think in order to have really good beer and a really good tap room, it's really about the customer experience. Like you were saying, if owners are disconnected, it's really hard to kind of have a clear vision. It's hard to have an identity. I think with COVID, we all learned we can drink at home. We can probably drink at home too much.
Yeah.
But to go out to a tap room, to want to put, my coat on in the wintertime and really go out to a tap room, there has to be really compelling beer and a really compelling experience. It's not unlike a restaurant. We used to be, as when the tap room laws changed 10 years ago and Fulton opened, closely followed by Harriet, it was like, okay, those are the only two. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And now a tap room, it's just as competitive as where are we going to eat on a Friday night.
Right.
And you really have to draw people in, whether that's through events, whether that's through a specific beer release. But the market is so saturated that you really have to have all of those things.
Yep. And even if you check all those boxes, people's habits have changed, like you said.
Completely.
And I don't think it's COVID related, but I do think that, like, I used to go out to eat way more than I do now.
And way more spontaneously.
Right, yeah. You'd be like, oh, let's just go grab this from here.
Right.
And now, if I go out to eat, it's more of a purposeful, planned thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is not something I can make in my
Yeah.
own kitchen, and I'm really craving it. So, like, this Friday, I want to go here.
I probably made more dinner reservations since like 2021 than I have in my life prior.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much more calculated.
Yep.
My decisions are much more calculated. I look forward to them. Maybe not quite as much with beverages, but still, I mean, I think we're all much less likely to really overbook ourselves and much more likely to say no when there's events that overlap. And that's a big, I think from my other friends in the beer industry, I think that's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be, I don't think the bubble has burst. I do think we are getting to the point where like people have less of a tolerance for mediocre product.
100%.
Like,
and I think the customer is getting more educated.
Yeah. Which is
has more choices.
It's a good thing in the long run because, if you are trying to, here's a brewing analogy. If you're trying to have your healthy yeast,
sure,
you want it to be vibrant, and like sometimes like the bad yeast cells need to drop off.
That's right.
And I think that's what's happening as our local Minnesota craft beer scene matures. Is it's just the bar is getting higher.
Yeah,
people should expect more.
People should expect more. People shouldn't expect to be experimented on anymore. When
I'm going to Prize and I'm paying $11 for a beer, I want that beer to be amazing. And more often than not, sometimes it's like, oh, well, that was a disappointment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying specifically about Prize.
No, I know.
But like,
I know. It's just that sensation of like, not what your dollar is worth, but it's almost more like what your energy is worth, and that anticipation, that excitement of like wanting a quality product. And yeah, it's not unique to any one brewery at all, but just the desire to spend your time and your money and your energy and your happiness wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is a byproduct of COVID, that we have, as humans, we've reassessed what we're willing to put up with and what we're not.
Right.
And I think that like there's certain things that are like, nope, I'm not even going to do that anymore because I know it will aggravate me. So I'm just going to let it go. Like trying to find parking downtown Minneapolis on a, on a
Vikings
night.
Day.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that, it's hard right now. Obviously, we're recording this on the 5th of January.
Yes.
So, I mean, January is a tough time. January and February are really historically difficult times for bars, breweries, distilleries, wineries, everything under that restaurants under that umbrella. And so you tie in, how people are maybe trying to be a little bit more health conscious, take a break from alcohol and do all sorts of stuff like that. Something I came across this Beervana blog, Jeff Allsworth. Yeah, he's really great. Allsworth, that's right.
Really talented writer.
He's calling it, what phrase did he come up with?
I don't know.
Pub January?
I missed that.
Instead of dry January. The idea being, let me pull up because I don't
You were going to use our technology so that we don't sound like idiots. No, that's Jeff Allsworth is an incredibly talented writer.
I love his book.
Like one of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's while you're Googling, I'll buy you some time here. It's funny, during COVID, we all learned how to like homestead again, right? Like a ton of people were making sourdough. And I thought it was interesting that I don't know, maybe everyone did not see an uptick in homebrewing.
Yeah. Well, this came up yesterday when we were brewing the beer.
It's starting to come up more.
At Modest, we're like, well, you can't, there's no brick and mortar.
I know.
For Midwest Brewing Supplies. There's no brick and mortar for what's the
Northern Brewer.
Northern Brewer. Sorry, I may have just had a stroke. So yeah, and I was talking to somebody in BCC, Wes, who is an avid home brewer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Wes, how do you get your stuff now? He's like, I have to order it all online. And he's like, I was kind of used to that. I was ordering hops from like Yakima.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, sure.
But like, There's a very tactile kind of experience when you walk into Northern Brewer.
Yeah.
I know this from years of having to troubleshoot gas issues with my kegerator. You think I'm making it up, folks, but CO2 is a wily
Those kind of gas issues.
those kind of gas issues. Yeah, for other gas issues, I recommend CVS. But you can't just like do that, and you have to wait. And it's like I loved going into like their grain room and just like smelling.
Absolutely,
and like you could taste.
It's a sensory thing, yeah.
So it's like taking that out of the equation.
Speaking of
worried. Who's going to stumble upon that hobby? Knowing when there's no brick and mortar places.
Speaking of talented writers, Kate Burnett just wrote a piece about home brewing and how it's, quote, decoupling itself with the craft beer scene. And I haven't read it all, but I do want to go back and take a closer look at it because I think it's an interesting concept about who is home brewing, what's the audience for home brewing. And now that we don't have to make beer in order to have small batch beer, or we don't have to make beer in order to taste what a California Common is, what does that mean for the future of home brewing?
Yeah. Okay, I found the article.
Great, because I was running out of things to talk about.
In 2024, how about Pub January?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read from this article here on the Beervana blog. In recent years, January has become a time for alcohol fasting. After the boozy holidays, it makes sense to take a break. The thinking goes, and after all, who wants to go outside in the dead of winter? Like you mentioned here in...
I will.
Yeah. I don't want to dissuade anyone from finding balance in their lives, though dry January may not be the best way. But beer fans might consider the broader implications of skipping a month of pub going. January is a terrible time for pubs and tap rooms, even in normal years. This year, when drafting sales are projected to be 2 million barrels below their 2019 baseline, the situation is especially dire.
Yeah.
Breweries and pubs never fully rebounded from the COVID pandemic, and the longer malaise lasts, the harder it is to survive. A record number of breweries closed last year, including some historically important ones. Another bad winter will inevitably lead to more closures. To survive the lean times, independent pubs rely on the fat of summer to carry them through the winter, but that's harder following anemic years like the one that just ended. Breweries, meanwhile, count on the fat margins of draft sales to shore up their overall revenues. Because of inflation and rising costs, small breweries have watched their margins narrow to almost nothing on their packaged beer sales, making their draft volume all the more critical. At least in the northern latitudes, the tourists stop arriving for vacation. All this makes January, even without the national effort to avoid booze, a rough month. So this idea of make this month Pub January. Stop in for a quiet pint, grab dinner out, spend the afternoon playing a board game.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what you do, and you don't even have to drink alcohol, but if people kept up their July pace of pub going, it would make a big difference. So kind of the idea that, like, even if you are doing dry January, like we just mentioned, you've got THC, you've got NA offerings.
Yeah, and in some places food.
Still go and try to support them because it is a very difficult time. And I thought that was interesting. It's very polarizing, and I can see both sides. I totally understand, taking a break from it. Obviously, if you're drinking alcohol all the time, it has a negative effect. As much as we don't really want to talk about that. Year too. But I noticed sometimes I'll try to, if I'm wanting to either save a little money or just cut back to get to the gym more. I notice when I don't drink, I sleep better.
Yeah.
It's easier to kind of get up and do things. And so.
Yeah, I think my encouragement is probably to make more sustained behavior changes.
Yeah.
Not that, if you want to, like you said, you can see both sides. I think it's good to reevaluate your real relationship with alcohol. And if that means stopping for a month, if that's a good kind of check-in for you, that's great. But I think it's the same goes for cutting back, on food or making any sort of lifestyle change. It's really more about small goals that are more of a sustained kind of lifestyle. And for me, when I think that I feel like I've been overindulgent in any type of way, I try to take small, measurable steps to change what I'm doing instead of, doing something kind of cold turkey, so to speak. But, for some people, alcohol is different, and it does need to be cold turkey. And I'm in no way an expert on, alcohol use. But for me, I think instead of taking a whole month off, I try to just make changes in, am I just reaching for that beer because it's a habit? Or could I split this with someone? Those sorts of things where I don't feel like I need to keep drinking just for something to do. You know?
Well, and I think like for me, sometimes it's like, instead of getting the full pint,
exactly,
let's get the 10 ounce.
I almost always look for the smallest, the smallest size. And I was telling Rick, especially when we travel and we want to go to multiple places, which is, when we travel, we like to seek out beverages and food. I'm constantly looking for like the lowest alcohol options. So I love when breweries have really good, very low alcohol options, like in the 3s and 4s. That's just so pleasant to me to be able to have, a half a pour of something that's low alcohol. That's great. It means I don't have to feel like I'm being unsafe or I have to go home early.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing. The pub January, I like that idea. Well, why don't we take a little break? Yeah. The Canadian chef has walked in, and we have to. I want to rattle his cage a little bit.
Yeah, so, you got to do that.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the craft brewery openings and closings that have happened in 2023, and maybe look forward to our hopes and predictions for 2024. And you are listening to a One Pint Stand. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying a One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. If you are also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow a One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We would also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify and iTunes to help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you like reading about craft beer, I started my own blog, and all of my writing can be found at aonepintstand.com. After 8 years of writing as editor-in-chief at Beer Pluma, it was time for me to start my own blog. So make sure you check out the blog for some interesting craft beer content of the written variety. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Now, back to the show. And we are back here on a One Pint Stand. This is kind of a year in review edition with Paige, who has a lot of insights on beer, food, coffee, and how to maintain a dog and cat household.
Yeah, that's new for 2023.
As somebody who grew up with the teachings of Garfield, I would not have imagined that a dog and a cat could get along so well.
Well, but it's really a frenemy kind of. I mean, they fight. I mean, there's a reason that the phrase is like dogs and cats. Fight like dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Cats and dogs?
Cats and dogs.
Anyway, that's what it's like.
I think it rains cats and dogs. They get along like dogs and cats. It's getting
thing. Better day by day, but I will tell you they're brothers for sure.
Yeah. So in the first half, we talked about kind of like some of the big stories from 2023. Mm-hmm. And now I want to kind of talk about, if you remember back to last year, we talked about some of the breweries that were going to be opening.
Yeah.
And we mentioned Wandering Leaf in St. Paul and Hackamore out in Chanhassen. Mm-hmm. And we also were talking about Paddlefish and Railworks.
Yeah.
Well, fun fact. Paddlefish just I think
opened.
They had their opening, soft opening or something.
Maybe. And they're in St. Peter, which is one of my favorite little small towns to visit. Yeah.
Home of the Gustavus
Adolphus College.
Yes.
They're
Gustavus
home
Adolphus.
of the Governor, Drum and Bugle Corps. And I hear that right across the road from the brewery is one of my favorite Irish pubs, Patrick's.
Yeah, cool.
A little shout out to St. Peter.
That's exciting.
I do want to check it out. I think, the idea of a small town brewery, kind of like having your hometown craft brewery, is a very successful model. I mean, I think, it just draws in such a loyal fan base. And I'm not saying that like there aren't loyal customers in the Twin Cities, but I think I noticed over the years as these breweries are opening in small towns, first how ubiquitous craft beer is and how big the demand is, but just also the dynamic in opening in a small town. And I'm really excited for Paddlefish, and I haven't been, so I can't speak to the beer, but I hope it's great.
We should pick a Saturday and go down there.
We should. Maybe on our way to Shells where you've never been.
That's true. That's also a thing that we need to do.
Yeah, maybe
there's so many things, so many places to go.
Yes.
You know who is a proud Gustavus alum?
I don't.
Aaron Ziert.
Oh, well, that checks out.
Yeah.
The running.
Yeah, the running.
The early mornings.
He's like a modern day Forrest Gump.
Exacting. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a gusty.
Yeah.
He's a gusty with gusto. So Paddlefish just opened. I think the only person that I know who has been is our, everybody knows Nikki.
Yes.
Nikki has goes everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that she said that was her 320th
really?
brewery
I didn't
visit.
see that.
I had the pleasure of seeing her the other night at Anthony's birthday.
Yes.
And that's always really cool. She's one of those
women about town.
Women about town, and not in the weird tax evading way, if you catch my drift. But she's at all the brewery things. She has her like Tuesdays she goes to Modest. I think today she was at Invictus, but she is just a good person, lifts other people up, and she's such a fun I also think she's kind of a sassy lady.
Oh, she has opinions.
She's got
But you've been to Hackamore.
Yeah.
They're a new one this year too.
Yeah.
It feels like they've been there over a year already.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a big buildup. They had merch
You're right.
at the 2022
Dabbler?
ABR.
Or ABR, okay.
Like they had a booth. So they're somebody that...
And you've been there, you've interviewed them.
Yep. Yeah, we did a podcast back, it was right before they opened to the public. Kind of a dream team of brewers. They got the head brewer from Pantown. And
that's right.
Former head brewer from Waconia.
Yeah.
And brought them all together. Well, so Zach Gleason and his brother Jake own it.
Yes.
And their head brewer, Nick, is their cousin.
Oh, yeah.
So the name Hackamore
I did know that.
comes from like the street that their grandma's house was on.
Yeah.
And that was a big gathering place. But I think they're doing
Is a
pretty
Hackamore
well.
a tree?
I think so.
Okay.
Or that's...
I've liked it. I mean, I think the few visits I've had, the beer's been very good.
Yeah.
It's it's an interesting layout. I like how they have different kind of formats of seating. I always think that's really welcoming. The bar is a little clunky, which is funny. I saw someone comment on the infamous beer people the other day about the bar and how kind of bottlenecked it is. But I've always sat at the bar and had a good experience. I like they kind of have little wacky food choices that aren't the usual. We had like a charcuterie board the other day that was really nice. And it's a little far for us to make it like a regular spot, but Rick and I have been and we like it.
Yeah, out there in Chanhassen.
Yeah, exactly.
Where my sister lives, out in Chanhassen. Yep. So, I mean, I get out there every now and again. I've only been once, but I enjoyed it. It's cool. It's a big, spacious place. The beers are solid.
Yeah, the beers are good.
I wanted to get out there because the Salsa Collaborative was doing like a residency out there.
The what?
Salsa Collaborative.
I'm in a hot sauce exchange. I don't know about the Salsa Collaborative.
Well, it's
Let's
they
swap
do
salsa
burgers,
secrets, Dan.
They do, I'm assuming, salsa. Now, I don't know if it's the condiment or the dance, but either way, saw a lot of pictures of their food, and it looks insanely delectable.
Okay, great.
So Hackamore is off to a good start.
Yeah.
Wandering Leaf.
Yes,
in
we've both
St.
been.
Paul. Yeah, we went right away. And
that's right.
We enjoyed it. And I was just there last Tuesday.
Yeah.
I had a Mexican lager.
How was it?
It was delicious. La Hoya.
I'm sure that's right.
Hoja.
Oh, yeah. Hoya?
Yeah. That was good. And then they had a rye brown.
Oh, nice.
So anytime you put rye in a beer, I'm a big fan of that.
They have a really cool space, and they're attached to a really interesting restaurant, and they're in an area with not a lot of other breweries. So
yeah, which is so odd. My grandparents grew up in they didn't grow up in Highland Park, but I grew up going to their house.
I mean, they're
Highland
like
Park.
Very far west, though, right?
Yep.
I mean, they're almost to Fort Snelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the furthest end of West 7th before it turns into Highway 5.
That's right. Cool space.
And then
A lot of plants.
And the plants are growing in.
I
Like
know,
they're
they're
really
getting
cool.
very lush.
I really like it there. So Wandering Leaf and Heavy Rotation both have lots of green in their tap rooms, and I really like that.
I'm going to have a rotation tomorrow.
Ooh, you're in for a treat. I love their beers.
Yeah, I've only been once, and it was packed.
Yeah.
There was nowhere we were standing.
That's another place where it's like that they get so much support from their local community.
Yeah.
Which is fun. But Wandering Leaf, I really like the beers that I've had there. Some of my favorite ones, they did a New Zealand Pilsner. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but then the Mexican lager was really good. Also, the owners, Rob and Matt, I recorded a podcast there over the summer, and we played this interesting, it was like a hybrid version of disc golf where you shotgunned a hams and crushed it with your foot and then stood in a line and tried to like toss it into
It's like the biathlon.
5-gallon pail.
Yes.
So I've done that twice.
Is there a name for that game? Mistake?
Something hams toss. I'm guessing, but that's fun.
Ham toss.
I think all but one time I've been there, one of the two, sometimes both, have been there in the tap room.
That is nice.
That's really fun. If you want to hear more about their story, go to onepintstand.com and find the interview.
You don't have to be embarrassed on plugging your own podcast on your own podcast.
So I think Wandering Leaf is doing really well. Hackamore is doing really well. According to Nikki, the beers at Paddlefish were solid.
Great.
Then we talked about this one last year too. Railworks.
Yeah, what the heck?
They're still not open.
Columbia Heights, what a great location. I mean, I don't know anything about it, so I really don't have a lot to add to this conversation. But yeah, you're right. They've been saying that they are going to open for more than a year.
several years.
Yeah.
It's going so I don't know what's going on with that. One thing that you mentioned, and this was not quite on my radar, but Botany Brew Farm. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Botany Brew Farm. I mean, they're not like open to the public, meaning like they're not open every day. But yeah, Joe Alton, who was the founder and first editor-in-chief of The Growler, has bought what used to be Dave's Brew Farm, which had a little bit of a cult following. It's just outside of New Richmond, Wisconsin. So if you're visiting other kind of brewery, I mean, kind of. If you're visiting other breweries in western Wisconsin, if you're going to like Oliphant or going to like go to 45th Parallel, it's kind of right in that little zone over there. So a little bit north of Hudson. Anyway, I don't really know exactly the details on the kind of schedule to be more of a regular tap room or brewery, but I know that Joe's had some events out there with some chefs and kind of has done some collaborations. One was with one of my favorite breweries in Menominee called Nonick, and they did a collaboration beer release. So I'm just looking forward to what he has in store, and I think it's such a different model. I think the whole idea of a farmhouse or farm brewery, it's much more common in other parts of the country, and I'm surprised it's not as common here. You don't really see that, but I know when I've traveled out to like around the DC area, when I was out there with Beer Now, we visited a number of farm breweries, and it's just such a pleasant experience. It's more like visiting a winery. You know, you go and you kind of walk the grounds and you spread out and you kind of have a picnic. And so I'm really looking forward to what he does. And I happened to run into him when I was out there visiting a pizza farm. And it just seems like it's just such a different change of pace to own a brewery out in the country as opposed to kind of doing the day-to-day craziness of a tap room in the city. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm happy for him.
Do you think that's what Dangerous Man will eventually do?
I do.
I think that would be really cool.
I do. I mean, they have a
whatever
farm.
they do will be really cool, but
yeah, I think that's what they want to do. I'm sure it's very challenging, but yeah, I think so. I don't think we've seen the last of Rob and Sarah, and Dangerous Man still exists as a brand, but I am looking forward to what.
Oh, very much so. I mean, they're everywhere now.
Yeah, people are so excited,
and their cans are so eye catching and really do jump off the shelf.
Totally, the branding is great.
So that's a I'm going to make a mental note. Someday I should do. We should get a couple people who design can art together and have a conversation about that, because I think there's probably a lot of science behind that. And
you should also get someone who makes glasses and find out how they get the can out of the glass.
Well, that's already on my one of the irons I shoved in the fire earlier.
Design is fascinating. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. Here we are in the early part, quarter one of 2024. Mm-hmm. What are some of your hopes, and maybe what's a prediction you have for 2024, either in beer or some other facet of life?
I mean, my hope is a lot more drinkable beers. And I know we say every year, I've been saying it for like 4 years. I feel like everyone says it's the year of the lager every year. And I'm not saying it has to be lager, but I do like variety, and I like to see styles that are a little bit more classic. And I know it's hard. I know that breweries are trying to really appeal to consumers, and they're trying to make beers that are really noteworthy and release, these crazy, whether it's something barrel aged or something hazy. But I do think it starts to become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy when breweries are only putting out these quote unquote hyped styles of beers, while at the same time saying that customers really don't demand other types of beers like brown ales or Vienna lagers or Dortmunders, you name it. I think the consumer kind of has a taste that is a product of what's out there. And the more that these hypey beers get marketed, the more popular they are. And so, it's kind of reminds me of the other day when Rick saw a post about, the restaurants that are the most anticipated in 2024. And it's like, well, you just made them the most anticipated restaurants in 2024
right,
by pushing it that way. And yeah, it's going to be it's a push and pull all the time, but I think brewers want to make classic styles. It's just a matter of the fear that they won't sell. So I do have to chuckle every time someone releases a brown ale. That's always, the name is always like a crack at a brown ale. Like, was it Drecker? Somebody recently had a beer that was like, nobody likes brown ale.
Ven, wasn't it Ven?
Yeah, Ven.
Yeah.
But other breweries have had them too. You're totally right. Where it's like, yeah, nobody likes brown ales, or here's our brown ale, who cares? And it's like, that's often one of the best beers on the menu. So if we could just, kind of change our mindset, and that's related to my other hope, which is more kind of pub culture. Yeah. Like the idea of being able to go to.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What is pub culture?
I think it's kind of the idea of being able to have a familiar place where you go. And if we're going to set the idea of a brewery aside and talk about kind of a brew pub or a restaurant, to me, it kind of, usually the focus is more imports, either more British or Irish beer, or kind of things that are separate from the craft beer scene. I love when restaurants have local beer. I always seek it out, either here or when I travel. But I think imports are really the backbone of how a lot of people got into beer. And so I'd like to see a little bit more homage or respect paid to kind of those classical styles. Because if we're not going to brew them, it'd be nice to bring in those styles from other people. They're so food friendly.
Is anybody
so sessionable
doing that around here?
I mean, you mentioned Jorg.
Jorg.
I think Jorg is
not
a good
mine,
example, but that's
Jorg.
Really,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of takes it to an extreme almost, because Jorg is they're getting so many excellent imports, mainly from Belgium, but other places too.
Yeah. And their food is really good too.
It's very good, and it works with it makes sense with what they're serving in terms of beer. And I think when I go to a Irish pub or a pub that's, like Brits or something that's more UK focused, and you look at the beer list and they don't have a lot of those beers, it's a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
I think it just speaks to that idea of having an identity and giving consumers a choice. I would be more than happy to go to Brits and order a Summit EPA because I know it's going to be a quality beer. But if I'm ordering, bangers and mash, I kind of want Fuller's ESB.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I told you before we recorded the other day, I was at Merlin's Rest on Lake and 36th, which is one of my favorite places to go. I really like that bar. Yeah. That's where they'll always have Fuller's ESB, and when the kind of temperature turns down a little bit, they'll have Fuller's London Porter. Mm-hmm. And the bartender said, well, you might want to get the London Porter now, because after we're out of kegs of it, they're not going to be like really selling it to the United States anymore.
That's a bummer.
Which I thought was weird, because it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of a very iconic beer.
It is.
But like you say, and I think it's like, is the tail wagging the dog in this situation where like breweries are telling us what to drink rather than us getting to choose. But if there's no choice, then we're being funneled into this thing.
I mean, how many times have you gone to a brewery where half the list is hazy IPAs and the other half is
too many
pastry sours and pastry stout?
Right. And I don't like those as much as I want to drink like a Vienna lager or a dark Czech lager.
Yeah.
thank goodness, I think that the pendulum is swinging back because we've got places in the Twin Cities and beyond that are brewing them. Obviously, they're not putting them in packaged product. So I think maybe is that part of the issue, whereas like if you go to the liquor store, you see fewer styles in cans and bottles.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to the tap room, like, Modest is going to be releasing a Dortmunder soon.
You're right. I mean, that's like Fulton. I mean, whenever I go to Fulton, I always get, some taproom only release. They're really good about that, about having styles that you can only get there. And I think even big, like national brands, like if you go to Deschutes or Sierra Nevada, like they're going to have a lot of beers on that you can't get anywhere else. And again, I really, it's not that I discourage ingenuity or creativity. I love to see, kind of what happens in trends in beer. Like, I think the whole idea of cold IPAs is really interesting.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing a little bit of a mini resurgence of black IPAs and black lagers.
Oh, definitely.
But I think variety is key to inclusivity. And I think variety is really key to the health of beer as a beverage, because those classic styles are really well understood and they make sense for pairing. It's not as exciting to have to look at a shelf of, only 3 different styles and try to decide what's going to go with Bouffe Bourguignon, for example.
Yeah. Because it's not a triple IPA, is what I've heard.
Usually not.
Well, yes, I like the jet fuel quality of this ale. And yeah, that's interesting.
I think that overlaps with my second wish. Is more of a culinary approach to beer and food. I think when craft beer, this current very long wave of craft beer, if you will, from the maybe, mid 2000s on, when it started, I think there was a lot of focus on food and beer pairing. If you look at books like The Brewmaster's Table and some of those other classics, the Oxford Companion to Beer, it talks a lot about beer and food together. And I do think that's really important because it is a culinary product. And I miss kind of those old classic beer dinners or restaurants that are taking much more of a pairing approach to beer. And I hope we see a little bit more of that because I think beer is very food friendly, can be very food friendly. And maybe that is one solution to kind of the dwindling popularity of some tap rooms. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I think food can be a gateway for somebody who doesn't think they like beer, because I mean, all of us have been in the situation where you've had like the right beer paired with like the right food.
Oh,
and
totally.
It's like, whoa, this
so
is
memorable.
A flavor, explosion.
Yeah.
I'll never forget one of those, was one of those like preview for barrel aged.
At Town Hall?
When like they give you like a little plate of different like chocolate chips, some like roasted nuts and different things. And he's like, I think it was Michael Agnew was like, try the ETW with this like roasted pecan and you'll get like crispy Thanksgiving turkey skin. I'm like, what? How does that even
so
work?
Great. That kind of experimentation really excites me.
But don't you think like a lot of those food pairing opportunities used to happen at like craft beer bars, and now those have really kind of fallen by the wayside?
And even restaurants that were really craft beer focused. Like I know a lot of people went to the beer dinners at Happy Gnome.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw on Facebook the other day there was an advertisement for like an upcoming beer battle between Urban Growler and Lupulin.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So those are still happening, but I feel like it's like not as well known. I don't know how many other people know that those things are happening. And that's a really fun experience. I went to a couple of the ones at the Happy Gnome, and it was really wild to see what they would do with the beers and the food.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, through Houndstooth, you all do that so well.
Yeah, I love watching. I love doing a pairing, a coursed meal with different pairings. And a lot of times people aren't so sure about beer pairings, or they think they want just wine, or they give us the total creative control. But I usually tend to do a variety because I try to pick the beverage that works the best with that dish. And a lot of times it could be beer or wine. So it's nice to have that variety. But yeah, as it gets harder to find, one of my go-tos for pairability was definitely Anchor Steam. And as it gets harder to find those classic styles, it's just tricky.
Yeah. What's a good beer pairing that people could try to start off the 2024 new year?
I think, because we've been talking about the popularity of IPAs because they're so easy to find, I think 2 pairings with IPAs that people don't think about are IPAs with spicy food. So that could be Indian, like curries go really well with a lot of West Coast style IPAs, or a really fun kind of unknown hidden gem is IPA with carrot cake. And I have done it before at an event where we had to make a gluten-free carrot cake, and it was delightful. And pairing it with an IPA really worked well.
Okay, talk me through that pairing.
I don't know a lot of the science behind it, but I think it has to do with kind of the sweetness of the carrots and kind of the interplay between that maltiness and the kind of the bake on the cake. I think it plays up the maltiness of the IPA and actually restrains the bitterness without competing with it.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Whereas IPA with spicy food is more of a matched pairing where they're both really powerful on the palate.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. For example, as my husband just said, that pairing was with Sam Smith's IPA, which is a British India Pale Ale.
Yeah.
So
and
not,
that's going to be
not
more
even as
like floral
exactly.
and earthy.
Not even as hoppy as American, but I think it would work with an American too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. See, this is why we need these styles to stick around.
Yes.
So people can make carrot cake great again, as they say.
Yeah.
That's one of my dad loves carrot cake.
Oh, does he like IPA?
No.
Okay, too bad.
But I think I figured out a way to get him aboard that ship. One of my hopes. You want to know
what are
one
your
of my
hopes?
hopes for 2024 is I want like kind of like what you said. I want more breweries to kind of like, and I know this is hard. It's always easier to spend somebody else's money. But I would love to see, again, a resurgence of some styles that maybe people are forgetting about, but kind of akin with the idea of wanting like low ABV beers so you can go and like sit around with your friends or just go by yourself and make some new friends.
Yeah.
But like bring back some of those like British style beers that are very balanced when it comes to certain flavors, but very low on the alcohol scale, more of those things, more kind of classic historic styles. I think every brewery should just have like a little teeny tiny pilot system where they can just like have like devote one tap to a style that in its heyday was very popular, but has like for whatever reason fallen by the wayside. I think that would be great because I do think, as you mentioned earlier, I think that craft beer is in danger of losing its way if all of those styles that initially got all the craft beer geeks fired up about craft beer go away and people think like, oh yeah, like they used to brew in Belgium, this triple IPA with dry hopped with 30 pounds of Sabro. It's like, well, no. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see that.
And I mean, craft beer got its start because people wanted variety.
Yeah.
They didn't want to keep drinking
It's
American
so funny.
light lagers.
Yeah.
Look what happened. Not to say that there's no variety, but it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places that are doing it right. I think of like Bad Weather.
Yes.
I wonder if you talk to Andy or the folks at Bad Weather, if they would say they're losing money by doing heritage lagers.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Where else do you see those kind of beers?
Nowhere. And I think that's really like nobody's doing that. And because Andy is, here's the other thing. I think it's like with anything. If you set out to do something to make money, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we talked about earlier on in the conversation. We talked about Lakes and Legends closing. Clutch. Another one, who through no fault of their own.
Clutch and Eastlake share a bit of a problem.
Well, right.
Kind of, in that they were in an environment. How do I explain this? One, Eastlake was in Midtown Global Market.
Yep.
And Clutch was in a newer food hall, old building, new food hall.
Yeah, the keg and case.
And that's a little bit tricky.
Well, yeah, because you have no control over what happens. I mean, you could have gone into keg and case in the last year and, had a lot of fun with Echo. because nothing else is in there.
I know, and it started out so great.
Yeah, they had a lot of things.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that, and this is one thing I think the Midtown Global Market, where if you had the right brewery go in there, it would be perfect because you have at your fingertips almost every cuisine you could want. And you could really lean into that as far as like beers that you brew to kind of go along with different things. I mean, IPAs, like educate the patrons coming in. If you want this, go get some spicy food.
Right.
If you want this, go get, there were all sorts of different flavors and textures available there. Whereas like with Keg and Case, you had a lot of boutique kind of level places.
Yeah.
They had a place to get like heirloom honey and like mushrooms. And it's like, but you're in West 7th, on West 7th Street, which is a very blue collar neighborhood. And I think they were banking on people coming
being
into
a destination.
town.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like if they would have really highlighted and celebrated some of the local mom and pop places in that area that were doing well, I think it would have been a whole different thing. I also think that the property managers of Keg and Case were kind of moronic in that sense, because it's like, I could have told you that wasn't a great idea.
Right.
And so like, if you can't bring people in, a brewery's going to fail no matter how good their beer is.
And that's why I feel badly for Clutch. And in similar way, Eastlake, just knowing the limitations they had with being in the Midtown Global Market, the space, the water, I just heard it was just very limiting to what they couldn't do. So anyway, that was a distraction from your dreams. You can go back to those.
Yeah. I want to see more styles available, because I think that people are being more selective with how they drink and how they like allocate their resources to going out. And I think if there's right now this idea that craft beer is really just 3 styles. Yeah. And that's not true. Yeah. Obviously, we know that. But I also would like to kind of continue to see, I would love it if there could be some way to get Winterfest to come back. Because it was such a fun thing. And I know that like beer festivals kind of across the nation are kind of struggling. I listened to a podcast the other day on good beer hunting about kind of like the woe of beer festivals and people not doing those as much. There's not as much of a desire. Yeah. But I think part of the issue is like, as I was listening to the podcast, they were talking about like the festival of barrel-aged beers, Fobab in Chicago, it used to be in a much smaller venue, and now it's at a bigger place, and they don't sell out the tickets as fast. I was like, well,
take it back to a smaller venue.
Hey, back when I operated a lemonade stand on 199 East Thompson, we had max capacity of 2 people. There was a line out the door. Now, when I decided to move my venue to the Civic Center, well, within 5 minutes of opening my doors, I realized that was a mistake. Right. So it's like, like maybe I think sometimes with like things like that, the impetus is on growing.
Totally.
Where it's like, let's create an experience. Right. And let's create
even the Girl Scouts know that a limited number of available whatever it is creates supply and demand.
By Girl Scouts, do you mean organized crime? Because last I checked, when you're charging $7.50 for 3.5 cookies, that's illegal. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
But you buy them, right?
Well, of course.
Exactly.
And I think the biggest thing that nobody's talking about when, we've all heard about like, Ponzi schemes and like government regulation and tax breaks, but like when Aldi, I believe the Girl Scouts of America sent over a few grunts to talk to Aldi, because Aldi used to have their brand of Thin Mints.
What?
And they tasted almost exactly the same for $1.79
Somebody
a
knocked
pack.
some heads together at Aldi.
Funny, yeah. Somebody sent a Sicilian message with like a bunch of crushed up cookies in a sack, and all of a sudden you can't get those anymore. It was like I used to go through a lot of those. But
that brings up an interesting point, not about cookies so much, but about money. Do you think that there is like a breaking point of what a consumer is willing to pay for a pint of beer?
Absolutely.
Do you think that has contributed to people going out less?
Yes.
I mean,
I also
with the
think it's a
rising cost of
gatekeeping
ingredients-
thing.
Okay.
It's like I could go on. I could do a
I opened-
podcast about this.
I
but-
opened a can of worms.
Yeah. No, I think so the other day I saw that Other Half from Chicago opened up or Other Half from New York.
Other half is in New York.
Yes. They opened up a Chicago tap room.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to guess how much money they are charging for a pint of beer?
Like regular beer,
Yeah, regular beer.
$9.
You want to take
Higher?
another guess?
$11.
You want to take another guess?
$14.
Take another guess.
You're not serious.
$16 a pint.
Would it make you sing really well?
I mean, I don't
Because
know.
I'd pay for it then.
$16 a pint.
That's too much money. That's almost double what. I mean, that's
insane.
over double what most places are charging.
Yeah, you could go drink 2 beers or pay your internet bill.
Exactly.
Like that's insane.
Yeah.
So I understand the cost of doing business, all the supplies,
It's
you
going
have to
up.
pay your staff and everything, but that is just egregious.
Yeah.
And I think there
What are we at the airport?
Yeah, exactly. what did Seinfeld say? Like $17. I think that's fair for a tuna sandwich. Like, it's crazy. And so like if you're almost like on one side of your mouth, you're talking, we want to make craft beer less snobby, more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got places charging $16 for a
Right.
Pilsner. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous. So, but because there are those like people who are willing to pay, it's what the
Right.
market will bear. And so I think there needs to be some level of transparency when it comes to like, okay, so breweries are charging this much.
Right. Are you paying your staff a living wage?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's necessarily happening.
Right.
Now some places, like I mentioned Prize earlier on, they are transparent about
Yeah.
that. They're like, we're building in this like
Right. Are they in no tipping?
no tipping.
That's what I thought,
So
yeah.
they put in whatever the
Yeah.
18% for
Health and wages. And
health and
et cetera,
wages
et
and
cetera.
everything,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
But then I wonder, I saw a bottle of their pumpkin carving or whatever it is, their barrel aged pumpkin beer on an end
I
cap
didn't see
at
that.
the Cub liquor
Was
store.
that from this year?
Yeah, for $29.99
At the liquor store for $29.99.
at the liquor store for $29.99. Now, you look at that and you say, okay, that's a pretty spendy bottle of
Yeah,
beer
right.
for a style
It's
that
a special occasion beer.
a lot of people don't love.
Right.
Because, I could also do a podcast on the unfair hatred of pumpkin beers, but
Yes.
I'm not going to.
That
So
would
you're
really be
charging-
seasonal creep
you're
if we start
charging
talking about
that-
pumpkin beers.
Right. You're charging that much for a bottle of beer, and I know they're like Idle Forest beers are
Yeah.
insanely expensive.
Yeah.
Are they? Where's that money going?
Right.
What's that cost? I mean, I know obviously when you're talking about like spontaneous fermentation and different things and aging, there's a upfront cost of barrels and things like that. But it
Yeah,
just
and
seems
time.
excessive because I know that there are other quality sour beer programs in the state that
Right.
are, aging their beer on really high quality fruit in barrels that are not charging $50 a bottle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where's that money
the,
go?
The range of prices in beer right now
If you're passing that 18% on to the customer,
Yeah.
so that that's not in your budget,
right.
right? So why the high cost?
Yeah.
These are questions I have. These are things that went from an accessibility standpoint, I wonder about. And I think there are, yes, I mean, if you are in a metro area that is densely populated, the cost of a beer is going to be higher.
And if people are used to paying, prices for wine or cocktails, maybe that won't look so high.
Right.
But for people who are trying to get into beer or who are regular beer drinkers, there has been a pretty steep incline in pricing.
Yep. Yeah. So it's all very interesting. But yeah, I would like to see my hope and, for the new year is like a kind of a return back to some of those different styles that got us all kind of into it. My prediction for 2024 is that I think we're going to continue to see some places struggle. Some places maybe have to shift kind of like their plans to kind of match where the consumer is at.
Sure.
And I think we're going to see a lot more other options other than beer
Yeah.
sold because that's kind of the key, getting people in the door.
Have you been to Gambit?
I have, yeah.
Have you noticed that half their menu is like seltzer cocktails?
No.
Oh, well, it is.
Well, I haven't been since
I've been like
April.
3 times.
Okay.
Over the last.
Have you seen Brad?
Yes.
DJ
that's
Scally
mainly
Brad?
why I go there.
Wiki.
That's also why I'm going to Heavy Rotation tomorrow.
Okay.
Gambit has, I mean, I shouldn't say half their menu. I haven't done the math, but a significant number of cocktails that are made from like a neutral grain, like a seltzer, like a neutral seltzer. What am I trying to say? Like a plain unflavored seltzer.
Okay.
And then so they add ingredients to it, and it turns out to be like a cocktail, but it's not. It's not a distilled spirit as the base.
Sure. Is that kind of what Urban Growler did with their?
Kind of.
Didn't they have like a
kind of? But they had like a really high alcohol. They got some special permission. Permission's the wrong word. They had to fight some laws.
papal dispensation
to get really high alcohol seltzer, basically, to be able to make. Yeah. I don't think this is necessarily high alcohol seltzer.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like a plain alcoholic LaCroix that then they can add flavors to.
Okay.
Some I think have been more successful than others. But when you talk about more breweries offering products that are not traditional beers, that's one thing that I'm seeing too.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There's been a lot of things happening in the last year, and I'm really curious to see how long this COVID pandemic hangover is going to be economically affecting places. I would like to, without any numbers to back it up, it just seems like when I go out to breweries, people are coming out.
Yeah.
The numbers
I've been to
are
a lot
back.
of very busy tap rooms in the last couple of weeks.
And, so where was I just the other day? It was, you wouldn't know because you weren't there. These are deep thoughts with Dan Bobian. Crap. Where did I? Well,
let's narrow it down.
We'll edit
Hotter,
this part
colder.
out. There was a roof and 4 walls. I believe they had running water. Good God, what is today?
The 5th.
Friday, the 5th. Oh, the 5th. Yeah.
You were at Modest Brewing. You were at.
Oh.
Was it Dual Citizen?
No, never mind. It was a coffee shop, and it was this morning. I was making
Dan.
I was making the comment to Charles. I'm like, this place is really busy. This is good to hear because when I got there,
but it is good to see.
Yeah, so people are going out and enjoying different things. I just hope. I think like the takeaway obviously is support the places you like.
Yeah,
make sure they stick around. I think that there's as we've discussed. There are many reasons why a place might have to close down their tap room.
Right. And it may be voluntary. It may be a change in model. But you can't always assume that your favorite places are still going to be there.
Yeah, because I think we do sometimes. Just because a place has been around a long time doesn't mean they're healthy. So, but one thing I just want to shout out, because it's one of my favorite beer events of the year.
Yeah.
The Town Hall Brewery barrel-aged event is taking place from February 12th to the 24th.
It always kind of sneaks up on me.
Yeah.
Because they have Anniversary Week and Barrel Week, and by gum, do I spend a lot of time there during those weeks.
I know, and it's time well spent.
It is.
As Abe Lincoln once said, I really do like that barrel-aged Zarjack.
I almost cracked a mole barrel right before you got here, but I was like, I'm going to save it for next time we're together.
Yeah.
I think there's been this strange, what's the word? Prediction or conclusion.
Supercilious.
It was a coffee shop, not a brewery. Right. I think there's been this prediction that consumers really value like experiences over things. This isn't new. This probably started pre-COVID, but you see it with like around holiday time when there's all this pressure to be buying things and people talk about they want experiences. And I think we've seen breweries try to leverage that. Like we've seen a lot of breweries host yoga day and paint your pet day, and no judgment because I just signed up for one of those. And I think we're going to see more breweries try to promote things to do. Because like you said, having a beer especially if it's like a high alcohol beer in a brewery, that's not really sustainable. Like we think about sessionable beers. Part of being sessionable, I think, is capturing someone's attention and someone wanting to stay. And I think because people aren't really overbooking themselves anymore, there is a desire to just spend more time in one place and really, and make it a quality experience rather than just jumping from one thing to the next. So I would love to see breweries incorporate more experiences that benefit their bottom line. I mean, I think bringing in someone who teaches yoga, that's a great idea, but better yet is probably doing something internally that all goes to support the brewery. And one experience that comes to mind is I just recently, for the first time, went to this place called Unleashed Hounds and Hops.
Oh.
I always want to say that backwards. And it's not new. They opened in 2020, but they're right by the farmer's market. And it's an indoor dog park with a bar that's entirely craft beer and food. And you go and you can let your dog blow off some steam. And you can just get a beer and food, and you can be away from the dog, with the dog. But you can always see the little dog park, which is cool. And I think that's a really creative model. And I think initially they wanted to be a brewery. I could be wrong, but right now they're just serving other people's beer. So that's one really good example of like leaning way into the idea of an experience over just a beer. I think we're going to probably see more of that, or we're going to see people lean into that more in order to survive. I'm trying to think of other really good examples.
I got one for you because you jogged my memory. And this didn't happen at a coffee shop, but 56 Brewing, they do a thing called the Winter Patio Pintometer.
Oh.
And what is the Pintometer, you might ask? Well, starting annually on January 1, which was 4 days ago.
Yeah.
As the temperature outside drops, so does the price of 56 Brewing beer if you drink your beers outside. So here's a little interesting thing. I'm looking at their website. They have a little graphic of a thermometer. And so like if the price, the temperature, let's say
Dan, carry the one.
Oh, yeah. Let's say the temperature is 724 degrees. No. So the normal like price of a pint is $6. But if the temperature was like 18 degrees, it would be like $4.50.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. But it gets down to like, here, I'll show you the graphic. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is a podcast. But people can go to 56brewing.com.
There you go. Perfect.
And check it out and get the details.
Sebastian Joe's ice cream shop used to do that.
Okay,
it's ice cream, and who wants to eat it in the winter?
Yeah, so that's like a new kind of a fun thing.
Or like Forgotten Star has outdoor like curling.
Yes. They even have a Bonspiel, right? Or no, that's Sociable does a Bonspiel, don't they?
Curling rinks? Canadian. What are they called? Curling. Okay. All right. There we go.
Yeah. So
I miss that. Like I used to be in a bocce league at the Nomad, and I kind of miss that like regular reason to go do something. So I just encourage breweries to lean into the experience.
Heavy Rotation has an indoor bags league.
Really? Where?
In the
There's
winter.
No space.
I know it is a small place. Maybe I'm getting the place wrong.
Maybe they have another room.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But breweries need to lean into that.
Or you mentioned Prize. They have that feather bowling thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You can, and I think
like Town Hall is Town Hall lanes. And
yeah. So, I mean, finding different ways to get people in, like yoga, a lot of trivia, a lot of drag bingo.
Trivia, drag
I know
bingo,
that like Dual Citizen
pet.
on Monday nights, they'll do drag bingo, and that's a big hit. They do that at Wandering Leaf, too.
Yeah, or some people do drag brunches, which is cool.
Yep, yeah. So it's a lot of fun stuff. So, well, we're going to wrap it up here. Just as we get 2024 going, we're going to wind down this kind of year in review, look forward episode of A One Pint Stand. Paige, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
For letting me bring my mobile podcasting situation
equipment.
here. This old mixer could tell stories.
Prediction for 2024. Dan buys a new mixer.
Yeah, we're down to like 2 microphone things. I gotta get on Amazon when I get home. So hopefully your new year is to all. Well, I used to say all 7, but I think we're up to 9
subscribers.
Listeners. We've added Kayla. I know that Nikki listens a lot. Sarah listens a lot. So we used to just be Charles and his 6 other ghost accounts, but now we're getting there.
How about do any of your family members listen?
You know, I'm not sure.
Sorry, is that a sore spot?
Yeah, no, it's like, well, we're either going to talk about politics or my last podcast episode. Politics it is. Okay. I think some of them might listen. I don't know.
Good.
I think people have told me that, you have a good podcast voice.
How do you know how many people subscribe if they're on various platforms?
That is the $64,000 question.
Okay.
I can see who follows me on Spotify, but beyond that, it's a big crapshoot.
Got it. Well, maybe you have more followers than you think.
I hope. And
next time we should record at Paddlefish.
Yeah, that would be fun. We could get on the horn. Maybe have Aaron
on the road on the horn.
Yeah, Aaron Zier. Actually, Aaron, I think knows somebody who started it.
Oh,
so I could.
Well, you're famous enough.
I'd ask him, and maybe I bet he would come down there with us.
Well, he's from Gustavus. We went to Gustavus.
Yes. This has been another episode of A One Pint Stand. I like doing this. I hope we can start this tradition. And this is the second year in a row where we've gotten together and talked about predictions and looking back and looking forward. So this is always really fun to sit down.
I like that your sign off has become a bit of a Minnesota goodbye.
Yes, that's well, speaking of my family, they indoctrinated me at an early years. Although they called it a Bobian goodbye.
Well, that might be a whole other level.
Yeah, and it was a lot more. Yeah,
the sun
just
comes
standing
up.
around. Well, I suppose everybody's slapping their upper thigh and meandering towards the door. So we're gonna do the same. This has been another episode of A One Pint Stand. Cheers.
Cheers.
And with that, we are at the close of another episode of A One Pint Stand. Anytime I get to hang out with Paige, I am reminded of how lucky I am to know such a wonderful soul. Paige is just so much fun to be around. The laughter is plentiful, and we always find some wonderful beers to drink. As you heard, the conversation is effortless and really exciting. I hope you enjoyed our look back on 2023 and our look forward to 2024. Like we said, craft beer is in a little bit of a tight spot right now, but there's no reason to panic. What I would suggest is get out to your local favorites, support them, buy some merch, get a hat, buy some crowlers, buy some 4-packs now that you can do that. Especially during January and February, which are traditionally slower months. Consider maybe making a few extra stops. If you're doing dry January and they don't have any options, maybe get a gift card or something. Or consider doing the pub January like Jeff Allworth suggests on his blog. I can't believe it has been a whole year of A One Pint Stand episodes. I'm looking forward to some really fun interviews that are going to be coming up in 2024. As always, I continue to be humbled by the notion that people are taking time to listen to A One Pint Stand. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I just love sharing my energy and passion for connecting with craft beer with others, and I'm really grateful that you took time to listen. So, until next time, this has been A One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
Other industries.
Jim Bob Cooter's
Toys.
Furniture Upholstery Services down the road.
But I think it's also because what other industry, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but what other industry has cropped up so quickly with almost exclusively small businesses and has served a product that really has to be either sold across a bar or sold in a 3-tier system?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just unique. Beer is unique in that way that I can't think of another industry that's
saltwater taffy in the early 80s, but then that became
rollerblades.
That became exactly.